Kentucky's traditions and ideas about what's edible and how to prepare it, and preserve it started with Native American foodways before Europeans settled in this area. Although basically a hunting and gathering society, Native Americans had domesticated corn, pumpkin, squash, beans, and various herbs. The earliest settlers hunted and gathered as well. They integrated many Indian foods into their diet and borrowed Indian methods for preserving and preparing food, most notably drying of corn. Corn became a pioneer staple. They fixed it by milled, roasted, boiled, or baked, served it as hominy, mush, or grits, and dried and parched or pickled it. It was a basic ingredient for bread, porridges, cakes, and even whiskey. Raising a crop was a requirement for almost every homesteader who wanted to claim land. Corn, which yielded well on a newly cleared land, was a staple of the pioneer diet. Fresh corn was roasted on the ear. We still do that today, isn't that interesting? Or removed from the cob and stewed in skillet, and we like that. But the most prevalent form was meal, finely ground from kernels of dried corn, placed in a wooden mortar and pounded in a wooden pestle. If you look on your little flyer, you'll see that little pestle and those things right here on the stolen ones, okay? According to an old Kentucky adage, and I like this little quote, the less you have to eat, the more you know about cooking, because you get very creative. Depending on how it was cooked, cornmeal mixed with water became ash cakes, and I do have a recipe for ash cakes. If you guys don't know how to make ash cakes, I thought this was very interesting. You have a fireplace, you might even try it. You make your cornbread dough, make sure it's thick enough to hold into a shape. There on the corner of your fireplace, put the cake in it. Cover it with a clean cloth. Now we probably use aluminum or something. Put hot ashes over the cloth, and then put hot coals on top of that, and it takes about a half hour and it'll be done. Isn't that interesting?
How in the world come and didn't burn the cloth?
Yeah, that's what.
Well, used to, you know, they had the old cast iron skillet they'd stick in the coals, and the top of it had a place for them ashes and coals to go on. They cook it that way in the fireplace.
That's interesting.
I've seen that.
I think I've seen that on some TV shows, but I've never seen it in.
I've seen it done. The fact is, I'm not too sure we don't still have one of those old skillets.
Oh, really?
Had legs on it about that long. It'd stand up far and be under it, and on top too. So.
Yeah, it had little stubby legs.
Yeah.
Okay, they also made corn pone, mush, griddle cakes, cornbread, hoe cakes. I don't know if you guys know what hoe cakes is.
I saw that on TV last week.
Or Johnny cake. Have you heard of Johnny cake?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was used for journey cakes. Some people call it journey cakes. They take the long because it's good for travel. You can use it. Cornmeal was served not only as bread in its many forms, but was skillfully fermented and distilled also as a beverage, often used as a non-perishable medium of exchange. As well as being served at the table as grits or hominy, corn was fed to the livestock, making it an ideal pioneer crop. Creekside grist mills for grinding corn, the centers of little settlements, naturally expanded to process wheat into flour, more expensive than the cornmeal. Went into your gravies, your biscuits, pie crust, yeast breads, the cakes that pioneers baked for special occasions. Interesting, they were talking about food. I love food. Compensating for the lack of proper ovens, ingenious stack cakes were assembled with many tiny thin layers, sandwiched with jam or stewed dried fruit. They did dry out a lot of apples and stuff like that. It was just common. They need to preserve. They knew how to preserve better than we do, I think. Cornbread was a staple of Kentucky life late into the 19th century, when mass marketing brought in the inexpensive wheat flour. As danger lessened and the frontier stabilized, livestock on the family farm diversified, as did their menus. Fed on ever-present corn, hogs were cheap to raise, with little waste. Cattle and chickens enriched the diet with butter, cream, eggs, and a wider variety of meats. Kentucky's famous corn pudding, spoon bread, and chest pie came from custardy additions to corn. Buttermilk biscuits were a change from the beaten ones. And chicken, fried or served with dumplings, was a frequent Sunday dinner, and it still is, and favorite. The corn and wheat. Pioneer farmers. The decision. Here's the wheat. I don't know if you guys ever seen this cycle. Sickle.
Sickles.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a harvest wheat. It was a harder job than you realize. I think they have a display of one over in Jack Thomas's cabin. Is that correct?
You can, house, yes.
Yes. And if you ever want to see an old homestead, that's a good place to go to. They don't have it open right now. They're repairing it. Is that
In the future, it's going to be repaired.
Okay.
I'm
Yes,
sorry.
go ahead.
That tool this man is holding,
Is it different than what you
I-
have there?
as a kid, we call that a hook knife. Does it sound familiar to anybody else?
I've heard that, and also they had what they call a scything crate.
That's what we're talking about.
And, you know,
Yes.
they'd sweep it and it would kind of bun it.
Yeah, it's like
right?
a big comb or
Yeah,
something.
like a big
Oh,
bundle,
yeah,
each
yeah.
time you made a swipe. Somebody knows how to use it, but it took somebody knows how to use one of those.
They were pretty big, too.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Betty, that might be what they got on the right. You can't see the bottom of it, but you can see a long handle. That might be what he has.
That's probably is. I was looking for that, but they don't show it specifically.
Okay, we talked about corn and wheat, pioneer farmers, the decision where to move, the best land and waterways, and providing for the pioneer family had to be a difficult decision when you're moving. Where are you going to go? Well, Grayson County, of course. Grayson County was formed in 1810 from Hardin and Ohio counties. It's bounded on the north side by Hardin and Breckenridge, on the east by Hart County, on the south by Evanston County, and on the west by Ohio and Butler. In 1880, the population was 15,784. The county is well drained by the following water courses. I've just listed a few here, but there's a list of all the water courses that I could think of over here on the table also. Rough Creek, Big and Little Clifty, Nolan, Rock, Caney, Bear, and Short Creeks. The fine timber was abundant and has become a source of considerable commercial enterprise. The land was mostly thin, the soil poor quality, and the county was a rather level surface. The earliest homesteads were almost without fail built near a good spring. As in any community in early days, because of necessity, each home had to be self-sufficient. Wheat was grown and cut with a scythe and a cradle, like we were talking about, then threshed for feed and ground into flour. Corn was grown for bread and to feed the animals. Many seemed to work all summer to feed the old mule all winter, because basically we were working with mules there. They made their own clothes, raised most of their food. Sheep were raised for the meat and the wool. Wool was carded. We looked through this process. Here's the sheep being sheared, scalded the wool that's come off. Notice how red her hands are. It had to be really hot. And then they sort through the wool after that goes through. Then they card it. Then they comb it. Then they spin it. And then you come up with these 2-ply, 3-ply. And that's a lot of work.
Where's the carding at? Is there a
The carding was
There
just
you go.
right here.
There you go.
Oh, okay.
And it's
We
interesting.
go from.
I was talking to Kevin and he has some of those. I should have known about it. But I didn't talk to him soon enough, did I? Okay, and they spun it and wove it into linsey woolsey, from which most of their clothing was made. Linsey woolsey is linen and wool together. They had reels and spinning wheels and looms. And this was always a part of their homestead furnishings that they had. So when I said go look at the cabin, she has a bunch of that in that cabin, don't she?
There's spinning wheel and there's the tool for carding, but it's.
The wool yarn was also used to knit blouse and stockings. This is an interesting little tidbit that I ran into while I was researching. One lady reportedly claimed to have worn the same socks for a great number of years. One year she would knit the new feet. Next year she would knit the legs. She just kept doing it. Can you imagine? Some were fortunate to have sugar. They had sugar camps. So they made sugar and molasses and sorghum and maple syrup and a lot of things. In the fall, just before the frost, they would harvest the crop, cut it, strip it, and then haul it to the mill, or sometimes on their own farm, or to a nearby neighbor. Now, sorghum or molasses is sort of the same, but not quite. It was a very tedious job. And I ran into, while I was doing my research, in this black book, in October of 1981, my son-in-law, when he was 12 years old, was helping in his molasses mill in Shrewsbury. I thought it was very interesting.
Yes, we do. We make molasses. So
Oh,
we
did
don't-
you?
Yeah.
Still do?
Yeah.
Okay, well, you can tell us this process.
You want to strip it before you cut it, instead of cut it and strip it, because if you don't, it's a lot more trouble to get the leaves off.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's easier to get the leaves off of when it's
Strip it
standing.
off and head it, and all you gotta do is touch the other, load it up, take it to the mill.
So you guys take it to the mill.
Yeah, but it's just right there.
We got one.
We got one.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, okay.
Your own mill?
need a
Yeah.
road
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I'll call you when it's time.
okay.
I think they're having a sugar maker festival at Silicon this weekend.
Are they?
But anyway, there's the cane, and then they're putting it through the stripping. Isn't that what they're doing right there in that little stove? Is that what they're stripping? Squeezing it? See, I have never done it. Okay.
Yeah, that's the meal right there. They're taking it through and squeezing the juice out.
Okay, squeezing the juice, and then you're putting it in hot water? Is that what you do now?
No.
Just put it in the pan and cook it. Cook it,
Fire
just
it.
boil water.
You boil it, okay. And it's really,
Yeah, that pan is not anything like our pan. Because we have a big long pan and it's got little troughs on it like. If you go up and down with it, you start out at sugar water and you end up with sorghum down here, but they look like it's a
They
big.
put it in a great big vat and have to cook all that. See, the way we do, we continuously going.
okay, you've got sort of a set up a system where this does this, and then another part of it does
Yeah,
this, and
it's
it
got
comes
fats
back to
in
that.
it.
Is that what
We
you're
start out with
understanding?
the raw juice, by the time you get to the pan,
It just cooks continually down through there.
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, and then you test it and some people know when it's done.
Yeah, that's what they're saying to the other day.
What time of the year is that, Nancy?
It's in the fall.
October, mid-October.
Now, they said something about skimming the scum.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, when they first start cooking, they don't look like they'd be any way they fit to eat.
Yeah, some green nasty things on it.
And they have fire underneath it.
Yeah, you gotta fire all the way through.
Okay, and it's not gotta be too hot, just hot enough, right? That's the way
We
I'm
try to keep it about the same. Of course, it's hard to do, but without you had gas or something, it just would eat. Sometimes you got a little much, sometimes not enough.
But it's better than what you buy at the store, isn't it?
Oh,
As
yeah.
far as I'm concerned, it is.
And are you constantly stirring, or, because I remember a mule or a horse going
Yeah,
along.
exactly, that's
So
what
we
I
got
have.
more or less mechanized ability to run power take off of the track. It's still the same thing, but it just runs.
The one that I show has a horse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they have to keep the cane down and keep the horse a-moving and.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I have ducked your head every time that sweet pole goes over.
Many farms had an apple orchard and a cider mill. Dried apples were a favorite dish as well as apple butter. I couldn't find a good picture of this, but they had put the apples on a string and hung them out and let them dry out that way.
Mhm.
It took long hours to just prepare the slices and everything. Now cider was made from the not so nice apples and stored in the barrels to ferment into vinegar for making pickles and vinegar pie.
Cider could start out like apple juice, and it could get really hard. By spring, if you drink it, you got your veins cleared out.
Apple cider vinegar. That's how the
Vinegar was.
You
You pickle stuff with your apple cider. Yeah, it could turn to vinegar, it could go to cider. Most people wanted it to go to cider.
Does anybody here have a recipe for a vinegar pie?
I always wondered that.
Because my grandmother used to make one, of course, as a child, I did not get the recipe.
I have a book that came from, I bought a cookbook that I bought it from Whistle Stop. Check up there.
And Nancy Hay Grass.
Yeah, if you give me your address, I'll mail it to you.
Hers is probably better for you.
Mary, one.
Consult your local library, they'll find one for you.
Just check online sometimes.
We'll get you hooked up.
All right. Fine timber originally abounded there. That little of it could be sold except for a few flatboats of barrel staves. Do you guys know what staves are?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Until around 1875, when a market opened in Evansville for logs, which were rafted down the rivers, taking 2 to 3 weeks. Logs were hauled first with the oxen and later with mules. Look at all those. I couldn't believe this great big process of, taking them all. See how many horses and mules, and it looks like oxen maybe doing the wagons. I mean, wow. A bunch of logs were cut, dragged onto a raft, and floated down to the falls to be sawed into lumber. Now, I got another little research titty that I read. Earl Carter, which was related to Elias Carter, we'll talk about later, said on his 16th birthday he thought he was a man. He persuaded his father to let him go on a raft. The minute he stepped on it, he fell flat on his face. How much of a name?
Because you kind of break your light anyhow in that water. Standing on them.
Grayson County had many kinds of mills, including sawmills, grist mills with ground grain or flour, rolling mills that use cylinders to crush the grain again, water mills which were located next to the streams and the waters, and wood carding or textile mills. Right here I got these stones, my grindstones that you see. The ferrules had to be in there depending on how small or you wanted your seed to go into. This is various water mills that you see, kettles and everything, and how they're set up. This is a horizontal water-powered grist mill. Okay, there's the horizontal wheel, you see it, and there's a drive shaft, you see above it. And then there's the millstones that we were just talking about. Then the hopper, which you put the, corn or whatever you're going to put in there. And then an output hopper, and then the water. If you notice the output, sometimes the output they'll put a sack there that's catching it. Now here's a little more description of it, how it goes, how they're working it. I think that's interesting. Now, these mules were pretty popular in the communities because everybody depended on them for all the food. Nearly every well-established community had one or two mills to grind corn into mill or wheat into flour. Going to the mill was often a weekly family activity. It was a common sight to see your mom and dad and the children coming in a horse-drawn wagon, taking your shelled corn and your wheat to the mill, and then returning several hours later with flour, and cornmeal, other products. And I can remember when I was a kid, even, we went to town every Saturday. That was just seemed to be the thing that we always did. We would meet our neighbors, meet everybody from that community, and catch up on things, and get our shopping done just like they did. I mean, it's not too much different than what we're doing. And also, it's very common to see these sack dresses that the mothers made for them from these sacks. And Mr. Purcell, which is the Clarkson Milling Company, in the late 30s, he purchased large cotton bags printed in these colorful patterns from Worth and Bag Company. And these bags are filled with 100 pounds of livestock feed. And after they were purchased and used up, these cotton sacks were turned into garments, curtains, pillowcases, and napkins. I cannot imagine where the sack feed was. I don't think I ever did. Did any of you guys do it?
I did.
You did?
We got that back, they always call them green sack dresses around here.
Did they stay long? Were they hard to wear? I mean, were they stiff?
It's like cotton fabric or whatever fabric, yeah.
That's interesting. Okay, they're cotton bags, but I guess so. But it just seems like
You wash it, you get the feed out of it. Horses follow you close, but other than that, it's okay.
I'm glad they put it in colorful patterns.
No, my mother made home Swiss, as you call it,
Yeah.
and they were scratchy, itchy.
Okay.
But anyway.
Well, I even kept a piece. And when I finally had children, my mother made a dress, a little one using the same material, that material for mine, and it's that little baby. So we have a picture of it, so she could say she wore that too. She didn't understand it when they crowded it. I felt a lot of, continuation of tradition.
Yeah, that's good. That's what you mean.
I think it looked a lot like that pattern.
Of course, your mother and I are about the same age, so she remember like I do.
Yeah.
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 Okay. Grayson County has many, many mills of various types. In 1811, near the head of the Spring Fork, near Towsey, Elias Porter built a mill which ran for about 120 years, and for many years was the community center. Now this is not where the mill is, but it's close to it, and this was a covered bridge at one time, which has been replaced. I don't know if you guys remember that or not. But
If it's in the county, I'll probably put a floor in it.
Leonard Porter, the great-great-grandson of Elias, said he hauled the 7,000-pound flour mill unit from Spring Lick to Yemen on a log wagon pulled by 4 big oxen, and the job took 2 days. Wow. Imagine how much he got paid? $10. How much? $10.
Yeah.
She had to feed the oxen.
I know they're close, but about how much distance is that?
From Yemen to Tennessee. I don't know. Do you guys know? I don't know. It's not too far on the map, but I can't tell you the scale on the map.
That's okay, I was just curious.
Okay, well, this has all the water courses on it, and it has a lot of the information where the creeks and stuff are in it.
Don, it's just this far.
I thought that was about
Didn't mean to sort of out there.
I think it was about this far on my map.
And it took 2 days.
Yeah,
There were slow off.
1814 on Rough River, a mile below Heights Falls, and sometimes that's spelled a different way. It's A-G-I-G-H-T, Austin. James Landrum built a corn mill and a sawmill. Now he paid George Washington's heirs $2 an acre for one end of the dam was anchored. He sold his mill to Bill Myrtle. Myrtle's mill was destroyed in the 1867 flood. About 1825, Millerstown Milling Company was one of the oldest and most popular water mills in the county. It was operated for many years by Carvey and Heister. The mill was purchased in 1896 by A.Z. Rich. The capacity of the mill was 40 barrels of flour daily, 200 bushels of meal. The leading brands of their flour were American Beauty, that was their patent, Farmer's Choice, they're straight, and it was closed in the late 1950s. About 1846, a mile downstream from that mill, William Coon built a mill. Then, around 1865, a mile down further, John Stone built a corn mill and a sawmill. In 1875, on Short Creek, Boone Young had a water power corn mill. Okay, wheat growing developed from side cutting and flail threshing for home flour into a modest surplus after drills, binders, and threshers came to use in about 1890. About 1875, the Litchfield Roller Mills was owned by G.W. Meredith, W.H. Henniger, and E.H. Gardner. The mill had a daily capacity of 60 barrels of flour, 100 bushels of meal. This was one of the first mills in the county to install the Kentucky sifter system, which prepared malted meal, which is sifted meal. Okay.
Where was that located?
Pardon me?
Where was the Litchfield Roller Mill located?
Where?
Down there on Mill Street, before the
Mill
Street.
Yeah. What powered it though?
That creek that you go
That
through.
creek's never been more than a ditch.
It was back in the day. We filled it up since then.
Oh, that's where When and Tobin was right.
Exactly, that's what we're talking about. The special brand of their flour was Perfection, that was their full patent. Favorite was their straight, and Standard. In 1958, they changed the name to Wynn and Tobin Milling Company. With operators were G.M. Haycraft and his son Tilford under the proprietor Gardnett Wynn. That's your grandpa, Gardnett? No, he was at that one. He just worked there. Okay. About 1890, when the engine power came into local use, Boone Young, if you remember Boone Young that we were just talking about before, put in a steam-powered corn mill at Crossroads, which later was called Yeaman. I hadn't heard of that. I thought that was interesting. Mr. Young ran it for 20 years. In the early 1900s, Songster Mill, a Spurrier, was a sorghum mill. Clarkson Central Milling, West Main Street in Clarkson, intersection of US 62 and Highway 88, which is Bloomfield now, was originally purchased from Sam and Sarah Terry on May 1900. Got too many 1900. The mill was started about 1900 by C.A. Mulhall, Elmer Lehman, and Clarence Rogers. During the next year, J.R. Langman, C.A. Mulhall, A.O. Horn, and W.L. Witten were listed as the owners of the mill. Later, Dr. R.S. Ward became a part owner. By June 1912, Joe Levi, what is that church? Evely. I'm trying to think of the church. Evely. Okay, by June 1912, Joe Evely became a part owner. Joe Evely and Alonzo Horn owned and operated the steam-powered mill. By June 1912, Joe Evely and Charlie Purcell became part owners. About 1923, Charlie bought out all the other owners. Later, the steam-operated mill was run on fuel oil and then electricity, running conveyor belts and grinding machines. Charles Leach, you guys don't know him. He lives in Nashville. But he's a grandson, like I said, and he is full of information. He gives us a lot of, this is his ledger and his checkbook and stuff here. I mean, he gets donated to Jack Trumbull. He is just wonderful. I've talked to him, I've emailed him, he's just full of information. And he said the conveyor belts were fun to watch. They had little tiny cups on them, and they would fill up with wheat or corn, and then the contents would be dumped at another location. And he was a kid, he enjoyed watching them. And he remembered his grandpa oiling the pulleys, which was run in the mill on this side. Mr. Leach donated seed bags, old ledgers, photos, and you take time to look at them. They're really neat, I think. And I think, if you look at some of those bags, it's not his, but as Lisa was pointing out to me, and I didn't even notice. Oh, I have to show you this. The Green Brothers at Falls of Rough has a free ticket to the Ellis Theater on it. Isn't that interesting? That's what he remembers. Oh, okay. I was going to go on here and show you. Here's some pictures of Mr. Purcell sitting in front of the mill. Look at the feed sacks right there. Here he is with his grandson. Here's the mill itself.
Do you know where that was located in Clarkson?
Yeah. where Blimpie is now.
Oh, okay. I think I heard that old building. Yeah, I went to school up there in the 40s.
I didn't. I like the sign on that one a lot better than the other one.
Mhm.
I can read it more. And I thought this was interesting in itself too. I mean, he had a scale.
Yeah.
And he gave me the instructions on it and who it came from. So I'm going to try to share that with you, okay? It came from E.T. Fairbanks and Company. And it tells you how to use it. The method of using the tester, practiced by grain inspectors and other experts in the handling of grain, is to lift as much of the grain as that can be held in your both hands, and holding the hands just above the edge of the measure, allow the grain to run freely into the measure. This operation, repeated 3 times, will fill the 2-quart measure a little more than full. The surplus grain is then brushed off by drawing the beam or any other instrument having a straight edge gently over the surface of the tester. Now, if the bucket is hung upon the beam and the latter set to a balance, the figures indicated in the upper row on the beam will be the weight of the grain to the measured bushel. Now, I have heard that people cheat that on So, it's very interesting, but I thought this was great. I mean, Charlie Leach is just a wonderful person to share so much. Some of the trade names for Mr. Purcell's products are Fidelity, Goldenrod, Snowball, Kentucky Made, and Blue Ribbon. Clarkson Milling Company, under the supervision of Charlie, was known for manufacturing good meal and flour, and the mill continued until the death of Mr. Purcell in 1959. Now, in 1960, they built something else, but before they tore it down, they took it. This wood was really good wood that they built it with. It was oak and everything, and they took it piece by piece. It was very interesting. Okay, back to this. I didn't do all these mills like this, people. In 1910, Bill Hopper and Bill Downey started a corn and flour mill at Yeaman. Warren Smith later bought the Yeaman mill. Warren and his sons operated a successful business for many years. Smith had a good business until the local wheat growing declined. This mill was powered by steam, gas engine, a hot plug engine burning crude oil, and an electric motor. This mill, probably more than any other enterprise, drew people and business to Yeaman. Although Grayson County was a noted farming center, Clarkson also became a center for shipping and receiving, and began to establish trading centers when the railroad came. Chesapeake, Ohio, and Southwestern Railroad has been a great benefit for our prosperity here in Clarkson. W.C., Abe, and Hedge Keller operated 2 lumber mills, one on Bear Creek, about 4 miles from Litchfield, one at Clarkson, where they manufactured shingles, handles, staves, single and double trees, breast yokes, and dimension timber. This was the largest business in the community. Their capacity was about 4,000 feet daily. There were about 25 men, which really helped in the payroll, and the people in the community became the most important help in the section of Kentucky, Clarkson. Clarkson Keller Brothers lumber mill was located on the site of Clarkson drugstore building. This firm often did a business of $25,000 per year, shipping out over 100 carloads of by rail. Herman D. Keller, son of W.C. Keller, has noted that the 2 brothers, W.C. and Abe, would survey for their timber, then buy it and move a sawmill to that site. Both were energetic, hard-working young men who started out in business on a small scale and by close application to business have made themselves and their business very successful. They are trustworthy and reliable. Any contracts that they were furnished to them would receive prompt attention. They solicited correspondence from firms who used hatchet, bat, and other handles in the rough and made a specialty of getting out carload lots. Mostly oak and hickory were cut into sizes needed. It was then brought to Clarkson by wagon and stacked until it could be shipped. Most of the shipments were to International Harvester in Chicago. Interesting, huh? And the strong timber was used in making harvesters and wagons along with other equipment so necessary and needed at that time. Southern States operated a mill in Litchfield. I did have continued stay, but it's being deleted. It's been torn down. But it was on Beaver Dam Road, as you well know. Leroy Hodges worked at Southern States Mill for 37 years. Not in your head. Yeah. On a busy day, Hodges would load 45 to 50 trucks. Each truck averaged 25 to 30 bags of feed weighing 100 pounds each. Can you imagine? Lifting. What are the muscles he must have made?
That's how come when you sing, you kind of bent over a little bit.
It doesn't look like that. I thought he'd be the big Hulk.
He's tall, but he's
Not too bad, though.
Now, Hodges said sometimes a big truck would have 200 or more bags. Back in the olden days, people in the dairy business fed their cows year-round. Winter was busier in the summer because cows would eat the grass. The dairy started to taper off. The hog farms disappeared. There was little need for the lift that raised the trucks in a position for the corn to slide down out from the back into the pit at the mill shed. We went downstairs to grind the corn, and we loaded it for them, the farmers. Now, we talked about many meals, and I missed a lot of meals, but we only had so much limited time, and I did not take too much more time because I could go on and on and on about these meals. And I have a whole book over there if you guys want to look at them. If you want to talk about certain ones, we've got time to discuss it, okay? I'm just going to close it right here, okay? But I do want to mention that you've got an evaluation form I need you to fill out. And I want to mention a few presentations that will be coming up also at the library. I did have it, but I guess I don't have it. But anyway, March the 28th, we're going to start some genealogy classes, and it's going to be on the Unpuzzling the Past. It's the book that we're going to buy, but you're going to be responsible for the book, paying for it before, which will be about $18 or $19, your half price of what we would help with. And it's going to be from 1 to 3, also on Saturdays. We're going to do 18 chapters. The first chapter is in the beginning. Okay, and the second chapter is getting it under control. Okay. Then also the Jack Thomas House is going to be presenting March the 10th by Tara McDavid, Grayson Springs, at the Clarkson new community center. Okay, not at the Jack Thomas House.
Is that a Saturday?
Yes, it is a Tuesday. Right? Tuesday. Mm-hmm. Lisa, can you think of anything else that we're doing here? April the 12th through the 18th is National Library Week. Is that right? 14th. 14th to the 18th. And we will have a special day Mary Decker, Rose Booth, and Joyce Estridge will do free genealogy. You can don't have to pay anything, have anything that you want assisted with on Thursday of that week, the 16th. Novelty is on Wednesday, right? No, you're not.
We're still working with our presenter on that.
Okay. No, I'm jumping ahead on that one.
Jumping ahead.
I can't think of anything else right now.
You gonna get Thurman Pros on your genealogy?
Pardon me?
You gonna get Thurman Pros up here on your genealogy? Do you know him?
No, do you know?
No, he knows.
He knows.
Oh, he's the one that comes. I do know him. I do know him, and he does not write anything down.
No, he
It's
don't.
all in his
That's
head.
all.
Carmen told it.
Oh,
Do you know who he is? You should know who he is.
I was trying to say, I think I do, but you know, I'm getting
Well,
old.
you probably heard your mom speak of Joe Pro.
Yeah.
All right. Thurman was old son.
Okay.
There's a picture of an inside mill and the upstairs of it. I think that was interesting too. Do you guys want to discuss some other mills, or are you interested in? I mean, this time I tried to do a timeline on it, and it's it's so well.
When you took your grain, your farm, you take your grain there, the mill keeps some of that grain as payment, and then would sell it to the rest of the community.
The ones that could not, yeah,
So that's
did
where
not
they
have
made.
on the farm.
Yeah.
Very
Very
important.
I think it's what, quarter, toll, a lot of folks have it for toll.
I don't remember.
I think that's what it was. Different ones run different ways. But I mean, they call it a toll, see, just like you want to pay on a toll bill. So much of your grain, and pay for money.
Well, I know in Illinois, I don't know about you, but this is where I'm from. I helped Dad haul some corn to the mill, the grain elevators is what they call it there. And we just left it there, and when we needed it, we'd go back and get it. We didn't have to.
Because they stored it there.
And that's
That's
what you're talking about.
Time here at Winning Toll, that's some wheat, you get that, pay it in
Yeah.
there, and you get your flowers you need.
Right.
You run out.
And it really,
It's pretty good way to do it, you know.
Is wheat still grown in the county? Is it, is it,
Only they combined it
They
now.
combine it now.
we've got this new machinery.
You know how you decide.
Of course, now, I'm not, do the Mennonites, do they still do that by hand? The old Mennonites that live out by us?
You know, I don't.
Do
They
have
don't.
them?
That binder
No,
thing that they got.
They got a binder.
Okay,
It's like with a horse and it cuts it and bundles it.
bundles it, so
And
they
then-
can take it,
I don't know, they got some kind of machine of their own that thrash it with it.
thrash it.
Well, you guys don't have any more to talk about?
One thing about that, just talking about the dresses that they made out of the feed sack, some of the people that actually worked at Southern States and other places like that were really glad when that left, because the women would go in with their husbands, and if they were working on a silk or something, they could pick out what they wanted. And some of the guys would say it don't matter which one they want, it would be the one on the bottom, and you have to move it on.
Yeah, I know people like, they that party coming in that other, what was that other guy, he talked about it the most. But they say, no matter where they was, and they see them, well, that was the bottom one I really want.
If they dreaded to see the women come in, because the men didn't care. You know, the men just whatever you got to find, but when the women come in, they dreaded it when the women come in. You know, and I can see that, because I would be that way.
Do you want us to, do you guys want us to, I don't think we should probably pass them around.
If we were to take them up to the front and show it, then you could also do it on the video.
No, okay. That's a good idea.
Just take them up
Okay,
one
what do
time.
you want to do?
What are you gonna do first?
When you go to the Jack Thomas House and some of the library, the old stuff is very fragile, so we suggest you wear gloves or have the gloves, or they might have some there for you. Mary, can you tell you what all these are that she's bringing up here?
this is just a ledger from, get it handled right. Mr. Purcell's mill in Clarkson. He would write down what you bought, how much and stuff.
This is what it looks like in Kingston. You can pass it around.
When is that from, Mary?
1906 through 1908.
Yeah, the violin.
With the smaller mills, a lot of times the miller kept a portion of what was ground up for their pay, in addition to a little coin. But that's how they were able to get some of their pay too.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, back in the day, you had that,
Pretty neat job.
Yeah.
Fixing it up, yeah.
Right very well.
Big numbers,
Them there too.
Yeah.
Okay, I looked it up, Yeaman to Towsey, via Towsey Road is 1.9 miles.
1.9 miles from Towsey to Yeaman. Who asked me?
Is that a mile a
So
day?
less than 2 miles in 2 days. Wow.
A mile a day.
And he got what, $10?
Yeah. Wow, we don't have.
$5 a mile would be a good rate today, hauling stuff.
Wow.
Here, bring it up here real quick. I want to get a picture.
Yeah.
Okay.
They got up there, walking by the county cleaning, but they were walking in the dark there.
Yeah.
She's not doing very well. She just made it out. She's like mom.
Scotty, I'm not sure if that went around on this side.
Yeah,
Okay, so I read that. Okay.
She was born in
1909 doesn't have much in I should have did the big stuff on that 1909.
Clarkson Kellers. They both ran the, keeping it in the family, yeah. They were both. Well, Joe Easley came down, he immigrated from Ireland, and Canada first, and then he came down, and he built a mill, and then he also ran
My battery's dead is the problem here.
Berry. Berry, 1908. I know,
Clarkson.
and then that's what anyway, he spoke that up, but then they stayed there.
You can see it.
Yes, yes.
They're looking to have them for a long time.
And then the old metal bridge. They took it down. They thought, oh, I'll never get that high. But they, when they built the new road in, they just destroyed the hill. And, yeah, yeah. So there's, I made my daughter easily.
Yeah.
Even the church
I'm
wasn't as easy.
You want to do the checkbook first? You want to do this checkbook? Mine your way.
Go ahead.
You can always take pictures of it.
Oh, it's a copy. Yeah, a copy of it. Submitted somewhere. Yeah, don't they? They're huge.
Probably about that stuff for our professional development.
Clarkson, yeah.
I just don't want the green.
What is that, Betty?
This is checkbook.
Wow.
I don't understand. I did run anything. If anybody ever has anything, let me know, just so I can give it to my daughter.
No. For then, to press it out of the money, figure out what that would be now.
No. What is, yeah, really? I would love for that.
I know that security
is not. Oh.
I was like, ornamental back
Oh, you do? Okay.
Thank you.
I think I remember something about that little thing in the first year.
Holly told Clarkson she was quiet because history is evil. And she, yeah, this is security.
Pretty near one time they were over there, they had
I asked Mom why they called that Renard.
I see it's checked
Gave
out
me
too.
just I was glad.
Wonder if he found the
Well, it looks like he checked out by
And well, the mules would get stuck and the time they got the mules up in the air was moving away.
Oh, yeah. Not all of them.
Yeah, it is.
Yes.
I was supposed to hear it. Here goes the house. I could be out there.